This podcast is going to cover so many subjects: health and fitness, mental health, mindset, being a mum, business. Everything will be covered on this podcast. So join me bi-weekly for an amazing journey through life. Hi, Hannah, and welcome to a Full Cup of Tea podcast.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good, I'm excited.
I am so excited to have you on. Obviously, me and you have been working together, which we're going to go into with the podcast. We're working together with regards to my son Arlo and his difficulties he's having at the moment. So I do want to talk about that openly and everything you're doing for him and everything I think you can do for other children and other people. So we will go into that as well. But I think a lot of people who follow my podcast won't know who you are. So I think we should sort of get a bit of background about you, about everything that you advocate for in Mind Matters and all the changes you're wanting to make. Like, it's so inspiring, and I love chatting to you when I'm here at Seven Studios, co-working. And I'm super excited for this podcast to reach so many people and help them too.
Fingers crossed.
Yes,
Fingers
definitely.
Crossed. So, yeah, I'm Hannah, and I'm founder of Mind Matters. Mind Matters is a social enterprise and campaign inspired by a very personal journey of my own, but main key thing from that is that on the face of it, people can look and seem like everything's all right, and it's not. And also there's so many people similar to me in terms of getting to the ages of like mid-30s and all that kind of stuff, and like crashing and burning in it under the pressure of what society expects nowadays. So when I came to find myself, in a not very good place, and on the journey that I had in that time, it really helped me to stop thinking about the word mental. And to start thinking about the word mind. And as soon as I started to think about my mind, it seemed to open up a lot more positive thoughts, a lot more positive feelings about what my mind's capable of. And when I came to think about the word mind, I feel like you start to wonder, you start to be curious. It's like what we envisage, all the magical things that our children have, creativity, imagination, all them kind of things come back. And that inspired me to go, well, why on earth are we doing this? This is such a huge problem. It's affecting so many people. There's no sign of it getting better, just worse and worse and worse. And as I started researching how people did think and feel when they think of the word mental, it's all the same feedback. And for someone who's already in a low place to then associate yourself with that.
It's like a label, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're labeling yourself with.
Yeah, and you're making yourself worse.
Yeah.
Then that made me think about my little boy. Because at the time I had a baby boy, and he's now a thriving little boy. But it made me think about him and me never wanting him to ever experience what I had experienced and was experiencing. And that made me reflect. I started volunteering at school, completely changed career path, and made me want to make a difference. So hence the start of then Mind Matters in terms of the social enterprise. So for me, I was really angry that I'd got to this point in my life and I didn't understand how my brain works. I didn't understand nervous system regulation until I had to. Yeah. And it was like, right, well, why isn't this stuff taught as standard?
Yeah.
The work that I've done in schools used the Thrive approach, which is what I'm using with Arlo at the moment. And it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. But schools are using their Thrive approach for children who are showing and expressing that they need it. For me, the understanding and the theory that's involved in it and the understanding of your nervous system and your emotions and how you communicate and connect should be just taught to everyone.
Every
single child.
Because I think a lot of kids get through the school days and they don't show any signs of it.
No.
However, it's there.
Yeah.
And then what then happens is that it comes out teenagers, or it comes out as an adult or older. Whereas if we had that more understanding, they didn't just give it to the children that they think need it.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah. 100%. And it's the children who do go to school and like put a brave face on, you know, and appear that, like, for me, school's always my safe place. So I was never going to go in and you know, it's not my personality anyway. But it's like no one would have known, you know, and there's probably always been a bit of an underlying thing there. So it was like, right, well, how do we make this change? Because I think primarily we shouldn't be making children aware of mental health. We should be ensuring that they believe that they and their mind matters.
Yeah.
We should be ensuring that they believe they are special and amazing. And we should be ensuring that we're making prevention and we are making human connection the absolute priority. Because I do fundamentally believe that that's the underlying cause of so
and I can,
much.
from first hand, like, fully support you with that, as you know, with everything that I'm going through with Arlo. So it's like very like raw and something really close to my heart as well. So it just needs changing. You know, it's a frustration I'm having at the moment in terms of having curated this whole thing and be putting it out there and trying to get in touch with schools and things like that. That's providing its own obstacles in that schools are so busy, schools are so under pressure. Yeah,
underfunded.
Yeah.
And that's through no one in that school that's not coming back to you or isn't interested in what you're saying. But it needs a bigger, hence why I've attached the campaign to it. It needs a bigger recognition. It needs a bigger shift in how we're educating our children and what we're educating them on. Because like Arlo, for instance, is such a bright boy.
Yeah,
like so eloquent, conversational, imaginative, you know, and he shouldn't be penalised because he finds it difficult to sit and concentrate. What we should be doing is going, you know, especially in the advancements of technology, we need to be promoting and advocating for us all being unique and different. Definitely. And we should be bringing that together so that unitedly we all know why we're different to computers, why we're different to AI. AI is like so huge and is going to take over like so many roles that humans do and come out of school having. And it's like, unless we change the approach as to how we're educating our children and making more of a focus on the skills that make them special rather than making them conform.
Yeah,
because we're already going to have all this technology that deals with all that conformity. So, yeah, I feel like I've rambled, but it's just something extremely passionate about.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of information there for people who probably have sort of never look at it from that angle either. So obviously, when I met you, I've obviously learned things which I've never learned. Obviously, I've got an older child what's got ADHD, and all they've done for that all they did for him was put him on medication.
Yeah.
Never really wanted to understand his mind and his thought process and why he was doing these things. Yeah. All they did was put him on medication.
Yeah.
And obviously with Arlo showing similar signs, I thought, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
So obviously just chatting to you upstairs, I was like, wow, yeah. And obviously since, you've met Arlo, you've done your meet first session with him. He absolutely loved it as well, by the way.
Oh, good.
He can't wait. He's been told to school and everything. He was so
has
excited
he?
about it, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes my heart warm.
Yeah, he was so excited. And I just know, just from us going through the Thrive system, obviously when you did the assessment for parents, I just know how much he's going to benefit from it.
Yeah.
And even just speaking to Arlo School, they actually had someone who did the Thrive program, but no longer does it. They haven't replaced her.
Yeah. And that's...
So they were so like, oh, it's really good that you're doing that. You know, it's going to benefit him so much. So they're all for it. It's just, it's not accessible because people haven't got the resources there, or, you know, the person there who can do it, which is really sad. So I'm hoping, obviously, to fully support on you, with you getting this out there, fully support, obviously, speaking to the school once they see how Arlo's doing and they can see the change like Arlo's.
Well, that's the kind of approach that I'm wanting to make, because how I saw it when I was purely a Thrive practitioner in school is it was great and it was making a difference to the children who were given the care
to everyone.
But giving it access to everyone, but also like how are parents meant to, like I'm not saying these conditions don't exist. That's not what I'm claiming. I'm just claiming that if we take a different approach to how we're viewing education, if we take a different approach to how we're viewing human connection, I think that can make a massive difference. But if you've got children who you're giving the Thrive approach to, but their parents don't have, you know, the knowledge, because they wouldn't, or education on, you know, just basic neuroscience and attachment theory, then we could negate such a massive part of it. I mean, it took like a 5-10 minute conversation between me and you upstairs for you to be like,
wow,
oh my God,
just something so small as well. So it's like a sort of a thing that parents, other children as well, even though they're not having difficulties, if they understand that side, then they've got a child what's got difficulties, and everybody's minds are sort of, everyone's understanding the minds. Yeah. It's sort of
putting them together.
Because obviously that's another thing with Arlo, as you know. Obviously the children in his class are goading him, and that really affects him negatively. He's got no connection with anybody really. So I think having that Thrive for them children as well, to understand how their minds are working, possibly would help them understand other children in the class.
Exactly, that's it. It's about all understanding
each other.
And our needs and being accommodating and empathetic to that. Yeah. And that's what I think making Mind Matters schools does. It brings that awareness to the children from a really young age as to the importance of connection and that we're all different, and then the understanding of our emotions and how they generate our thoughts and feelings and how we communicate. But, you know, a massive thing, and it goes all the way through, you know, this then translates to secondary school in terms of, you know, anxiety being such a, thing and a buzzword. You've got actually, like, 12, 13-year-old girls saying, I'm anxious, I've got anxiety, because it's thrown out there that much. Well, and they've got no understanding of anxiety and the causes and how again, that's something else that needs addressing. But the key thing for me that what you've just said there is the I am anxious or my anxiety. They're like the two key things that I hear constantly, especially in, you know, young teenage girls.
Never were a thing when I was younger, though, you know.
No.
Were it you?
No.
I never even knew what it was.
No, we didn't. No. And I think you felt it. But I think that's the thing. It's firstly, the education piece there is you are not your feelings.
No.
That it's just something you are experiencing based on something you've experienced in your life. So you should never beat yourself up for your feelings. It's about being curious as to, I'm noticing this is how I'm feeling, and then being able to nurture your way through that, and through connecting with other people. Yeah. And so for like a teenage girl, I always try and get people to like try and sit and like take 3 deep breaths and how do you feel if I say the words I am anxious or my anxiety? And generally the feedback is it makes you feel tense,
Yeah,
and it makes you feel quite closed off and defensive. Whereas if then you change that and you get people to sit with the, right, well, let's park that. How about if I said, I am scared or I am worried? And it completely changes how you feel. Yeah. If someone came to me and said, I'm anxious, my anxiety, it doesn't prompt me to go much further because it's quite a closed statement. Whereas if you came to me and went, and I'm really worried and scared, I'd be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
what are you worried about?
It's like a closed off word,
How
isn't
can
it?
I
I never
help?
thought of it like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what, through technology and everything, like overstimulation, we're like becoming so defensive because we've built up that we've got to be this curated Instagram, TikTok, whatever it might be. Then, you know, there's so much pressure on them, so much pressure. Before you even think, like, I remember feeling pressure at school, and that was through normal stuff. Like, I have 2 older sisters, and they're both really academic and smart, so I felt pressure that I had to keep up with them. And then you felt pressure, just normal school pressure. But at the end of the day, you could go home and just chill out. And it's done till the next day. Whereas nowadays, they have
no rest from it.
No let
from
up.
The minute they wake up, it's the phones. So you're getting that in between your lessons, they're on the phones. You're going, it's just constant, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's just, it's awful for them.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Obviously, I've got girls what are nearly 12 and then nearly 18. So I see it on that side as well as myself, even though I'm 40 and myself, even me, because obviously my business is social media based. So I'm constantly having to live up to expectations. The only difference with me is I'm real raw and I'll say the good, bad, the ugly. But that's come with age.
Yes.
Before, I only used to tell the good. I didn't want no one knowing this, that, and other about me. And I need to portray this on. And it's only since learning that people need to see all aspects of your life. But then that's another pressure, though.
Yeah, 100%.
Because even when you're feeling down, and I had a really difficult time, I was like, I didn't know what to do because I've always shared my life on social media for my job. And I'm like, I can't share that, and it really did affect my mental health really bad.
Yeah,
really bad.
But I think that's a massive thing, and I can completely relate to that. Like, I spent most of my life trying to but I don't mean that to come across in like I'm in any way special. Most people are doing this, and this is what needs to stop.
Yeah,
like it's trying to maintain this facade of the like perfectionism and like these standards and like nothing's wrong and you're okay,
you're happy,
and
you're sad inside.
And
go on, sorry.
No, you're fine. It's like everyone, you know, and I got myself down a rabbit hole of like looking at childhood trauma and all this, and for a while I was in like victimhood mentality, and then I came to it and I was like, you know what? It's not nice, but most people have childhood trauma. Yeah. What we don't have is that we'll openly talk about it with each other. Yeah. Because we're scared of being judged, because we're scared of not being accepted. Yeah. And them kind of thoughts and that kind of behaviour comes from, you know, a real deep-rooted belief that you've instilled in yourself as a little kid. And that's hard to untie.
Yeah, it is
really
for all
hard.
them, especially when you get to adulthood.
Yeah, and it's, you know,
and do you not find as well, like a lot of people are happy to discuss the mental health, but are not happy to discuss the whys, as in go back, like they're happy to say I'm depressed or but won't necessarily discuss and be open. Whereas if they did that and they felt more comfortable with that and they were learnt that that's okay to do that, then your depression and anxiety would be a lot less.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't disappear, but it's a lot less. I mean, I've always been really open in that with people, and I tell everybody everything. Yeah. Too much sometimes. But I think if it just helps someone,
100%.
And it helps someone to then be brave enough to share their story or their trauma or, you know, reach out and get the help. This is why, obviously, like I do this podcast as well. Yeah. But so many people will put a label on themselves and say, I'm anxious or I'm I'm depressed, but then don't seem to want to find out the why and unpick.
Yeah. Well, I saw a clip from Jim Carrey, and it really resonated with me. Was he was, because obviously he's had, you know, times where, and he's a comedian, so he puts on a facade, and he says he sees depression as the requirement of deep rest. So fundamentally, what counsellors give is a safe place for someone to share their experiences with, and obviously that they're trained extremely well to be able to, you know, to do that with someone who's gone through something. But the issue with the demand for that isn't getting any less; it's just getting more and more and more. So you've got all these people who are waiting for this resource. You've then got the people giving the resource, that's, you know, an emotionally taxing job in itself.
Yeah.
Who are then becoming pressured that they're in so much demand and, you know, they can only give so much. Where I'm like, well, the focus has to be on how do we nurture our children to make them feel comfortable to do that? Yeah. And how do we get out there the message as to this is probably how we need to change as a society, you know. And
then we won't be getting to this point. We won't be getting to this point where we are right now. We've got adults and so many people on these waiting lists and waiting for help. Whereas if you start at the bottom, I always think the system's always wrong,
It is. I mean,
and there's some very bloody clever people out there that know, like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think, do they just do it on purpose sometimes?
I know.
Some of the stuff I'm thinking, we know we've got a problem.
Yeah.
So go back to the basics of the problem and start at a young age. I've said this all along, start at a young age, help people at a young age, and it'll save a lot of people's time and a lot of money for government in the end. So invest the money in the early stages to save money in the end stages, because to help a child in the early stages will save them a hell of a lot more money than, it's not just about, for me, it's not just about people who are depressed and anxious and stuff. It's also about these people who are making all these bad decisions, going to prison, taking drugs,
100%.
alcohol. So it's not just about, you know, seeing a counsellor, or, you know, for a thing. It's all the other things what come when you've not dealt with things as a child, or had the help and the guidance and find out, you know, how to deal with things that happen in your life and in your mind. It's like I just said, drug abuse. How much money is spent on that helping people? Yeah. Alcoholism. Yeah. You know, suicide. Yeah. You know, everything can be helped, minimised if we start at the children, which is obviously what you're trying to bring into the schools.
100%.
Which it's so frustrating that they can't see the bigger picture of help the children. Yeah. Help the children and fund this, concentrate on some funding for that, which we know we've all got it because we send it all over, money. Yeah. But I just think concentrate on these children, and then the funding that you're needing up here you won't need.
No, exactly. And that's the fundamentals with it. That's why I'm so passionate about the changing of the word from mental to mind, because I'm like, it's such a simple change. Yeah. And I know legislation-wise there'd be things, you know, a big amount of change to implement it, but it's a simple change.
Yeah, it is.
And if because you're never going to break the stigma around the word mental. You're never going to. No. Like, I've done my research as to how feelings are generated in the body through generations and things like that. You're talking generations down the line before they would think of the word mental and not have any negative connotation to it. So just make this switch to the word mind, and no, it doesn't in any which way resolve the problem, but the resource that's going into changing what that word means for people can go into something else. Yeah. And start raising the awareness of the mind, how magnificent it is, how magnificent people are, how, you know,
as well, around the mind.
That's it. And I was really, Rishi Sunak did a speech last week about the sick note thing around people with mental health problems, and it was quite controversial, and I didn't agree with it in any which way. And he was stood in front of a banner about societal change when he was delivering it. It's like, that isn't how you make societal change. You know, why aren't we hearing the speech around the fact that, look, this issue is only getting worse and worse, faster and faster. And rather than blaming it on things like COVID and labels,
stuff, yeah.
Let's just go, you know what? Honestly and fundamentally, as a society, we're getting something wrong. And it's affecting so many people. So let's look at the root cause of what that is. And I fundamentally believe it comes back to human connection and communication.
Definitely.
And if we can start with that, with our children, and prevention being the key, then we can make great shifts in that.
Yeah, I agree.
Like huge differences.
But we can obviously, there's the resources, and we can help, obviously, the people who are like older.
Yeah. But
if you start with these children, it's not going to get any worse.
Exactly. Because otherwise, it's not even like complicated. We're social beings. Yeah. We're meant to be around each other. We're meant to be together. And that's just what makes humans human.
Yeah.
And most people who are struggling then isolate themselves. That just then compounds the struggle.
Yeah.
And they isolate themselves because they've got them feelings of fear, worry and shame, which usually come from something they've experienced that's made them feel scared and worried, and they now don't think that they can confront that experience again.
Yeah.
But if they had people around them who were like, that's really bad and horrible that you went through that, but we're here and we're here to support you. But we're not a society that
does that either.
No, and we're not nurturing. We have to nurture that in our children because, this does get a bit conspiracy-wise, but I do think to maintain what makes us above AI, we have to do that.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah, we do.
And just for wanting the best for our kids, we do.
And their kids. And
yeah. It's scary otherwise.